Hi guys, and welcome to another video of Light's Vigil Tarot. Again, I'm Ash, or Ashley, and I'm really glad that you're here. If you're new to the channel, welcome. What I want to accomplish in this channel is to offer a gentle and kind space to explore tarot and oracle decks, and essentially to give them ratings based on their reflection, some emotional awareness around them, and essentially the care that's put into each deck. Today, what I'd like to cover is a really rare deck. It's one of my favorites in my collection, and it's called the Heart of the Fairy Oracle, or Heart of Fairy Oracle. It's by Brian and Wendy Froud. It's amazing. If you've heard of the Fairy Oracle, that one's a lot more popular. For those of you who don't know, Brian and Wendy Froud are amazing artists who were involved in Dark Crystal, Labyrinth, a lot of old time favorites. And Brian and Wendy to this day still continue to do beautiful fae artwork, and essentially spirit from alternate realms. So this is one of my absolute favorite decks. It is exceedingly hard to come by. So yes, I'm super stoked and excited to go through this deck with you. Again, though, this is just my experience with this deck. I'm going to be reading essentially how intuitive it is and how it feels to me emotionally, in the hopes that it'll support you in your journey and in different seasons of your life. Again, though, this is just an invitation, just so that you can get an idea of what the deck's about. If it's something you've always pined for or something you've never heard about, it's something to look into if you want to add it to your deck repertoire. But essentially, this is, again, just my rating. This isn't telling you what to do or what to buy or how to feel. Again, I want you to take what you feel comfortable from this review, and about the ratings I give, in your own mind, in your own soul, in your own spirit, what speaks to you. So whatever resonates, take that and leave the rest. And with that, we shall begin. So the Heart of Fairy Oracle, again, I said it's a very, very rare deck. Actually, how I came to learn about this was actually watching Witch and Scythe. She's one of my favorite YouTube readers. If you haven't seen her, please, please, please go check out her channel. She is so immensely deep and profound, and I just love her to pieces. But I saw her doing a reading with this deck, and I had already had the Fairy Oracle deck, and I was like, oh, I must have it. Not only for the art, but just for the energy that the deck had. So when you buy it, essentially it comes in this beautiful box, and it's got the description on it. Again, the artist is Brian and Wendy Froud. Again, it's out of publish. The publishers were Abrams Publishing, or Abrams Books. And yeah, just a very beautiful box. Now, again, I have certain categories that I'm going to list in the description box below of essentially how I rate each deck. And again, if you've been to my channel before, you know my rating system. But for those of you who are new, again, I'm going to explain each one. So the first one I usually go over with a new deck is the art of the deck, or the visuals of the deck. How does the deck look? And again, that not being said, Brian and Wendy Froud, like, mwah, mwah. If you've seen the Dark Crystal or Labyrinth, imagine that in just beautifully stunning art. Like, Brian paints such beautiful things, and they're puppet. Okay, I won't even get started. I will go on a tangent. But like, look at these. Like, look at these. Look, I don't even know if the light's capturing it. Hold on. Let me get this stronger. Look at this. It's so good. So pretty. Like, some of them, like, each of them will have their own energy. Like, you'll have little drawing ones like this. The oh no card. The two minds card. The joy of the future. Like, just, so ethereal. So beautiful. I feel it captures the fair folk stunningly. Like, so otherworldly, so mystical, but yet so connected to spirit. Like, wow. So connected to nature and just, like, wow. Like, wow, wow, wow. Like, look at that. I don't know if I can zoom in if it's going to capture, but look at it! I'm sorry. I'm such a nerd. Like, I shouldn't apologize, but I'm just such a massive nerd when it comes to, like, decks and just how beautiful they are. Like, look at that. There are so many images in this that you can intuit, that you can go deeper into. So that is the second rating, is intuitability. Is it very static in its picture, or can you read more into a deck? And with this deck, it's all that and above. There's so much going on in the pictures. The more you look at it, the more you see. You know, like the leaves on his shirt here, the eyes, and the multiple fair folk in the background. Like, mwah. So beautiful. So beautiful. So yes. From an art perspective, a readability perspective, when it comes to intuiting the visual language, this is absolutely a 5 out of 5 for both. Like you just can't, look at this. Look at this. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I saw, like, Witch and Scythe, and I saw these cards in her reading, and I was like, oh my god, because I already had the Fairy Oracle deck, the other one by Brian Froud, and, like, I really wish that they would publish this more, you know? It's such a shame that this is one of those decks that's a gem. You know, it's so hard to find, but if you can find it. Now, what I love about this deck, too, before I go off on a tangent, this deck has, as you can tell, there's nothing written on the deck at all. And so this deck has, I'm pretty sure it's three just nameless cards. Essentially, these cards are open-ended cards for you to intuit, to connect, to have a specific message that your heart is calling to you on the day, on the time, whatever journey or place that you're at for that part of the reading. And again, these cards are so beautiful about intuiting the different aspects because there's so much to look at. Your eye wanders to so many different things. So, like I could go on. And it has so much spunk too. Like, look at this little one. The nerd in me, the nerd in me is like, fantastic. Like, fantastic. Like, look at that. Look at that. Like, look at that. Anyway. Visuals and art and the intuitive readability for these, again, both 5 out of 5. Top tier. So the next, and I forgot to show the back of the cards. These are the back of the cards. Almost like a figure 8, as above, so below. Hearts. Mwah. Mwah. So delicious. So wonderful. Okay. So the next thing on my list, essentially when I'm rating a card deck, is the guidebook or the instructions, or how clear are the descriptions of each card in case you're maybe a beginner and you're not used to reading cards. Again, this is an oracle deck, So a lot more open-ended, a lot more intuition, a lot more what you can make of it, but such a great book. Like solid hardcover book, you know, sturdy cardboard. You know, I actually have this on a shelf with a whole bunch of my other books and tarot decks. The inside isn't colored. I'll be real, I don't mind. I've never been a huge it's never been a huge deal for me for the inside not to be colored, sorry. But still. So like good quality paper too. I mean, because this is a little more rare, I would personally feel it's more important to take care of the book, but again, it's solid. It's a solid book. So let's choose, just for an example, yeah, let's choose this one, shall we? Okay. So again, if I give you an example, they've got the name of the card at the top. They've got kind of an encompassing sort of theme of what the card is: support, soul healing, equilibrium. Then they give you kind of a description of what the card represents. If you've had the original card deck, just the Fairy Oracle, that deck is a lot more up to interpretation, and Brian and Wendy go into, you know, the creation of the card, the playfulness of the fair folk in question for who the card's about, but maybe not so much of a meaning. Just they'll touch a little bit on a meaning in the other book, but this one just completely goes into the meaning, which is what I love about this book. You know, an example, so you are seeking healing on a very ancient and fundamental level. You need to heal and change so that you may be deeply embedded into your psyche, and it may be so deeply embedded into your psyche that you may not even know that it's there. And this queen calls for the healing of the world. Sorrow, and the sorrow that wells up inside of you or without, is having a specific cause that you can now pinpoint. Isn't that, wow. Again, thank you, Spirit and Fair Folk. Isn't that so poignant? But yeah, it goes into what the card is about. But this deck, even in the introduction, even in about the cards, it tells you that this deck is very much about connecting with the fair folk in a more communion kind of way, a more sacred way, and intuiting through this deck what messages come to you. If you want to refer to the deck or the book, great, it's there, but it's a very intuitive deck. So guidebook and instruction quality, again, I would normally give this a 4 or 5 out of 5. I'm not a stickler for color, but if you are a stickler for colored pages, then a 4 out of 5. For me, it's a 5 out of 5. So the next, I guess you could say, review thing that I like to go over is the emotional tone of the deck. And the fifth one is any trauma or grief or triggering aspects that a deck could potentially have. In my work as a death doula, it's something that I always have to keep in mind. Essentially, it's a feeling you get from the deck. Now, this one's got, you know, some nudity. I would put the deck, though, as a purity nudity. I mean, you can derive deeper aspects or whatever aspects that you will, but I find that the nudity to be very gentle, very honest, very, I don't even know what you would call it, but it's not something that you would go, oh my God, that's obscene. You know, it's a very beautiful, natural nature deck. That's the best way I can describe it. It's getting back to the nature of things. The emotional tone very much depends on which cards you pull. Each card I find has its own presence, its own energy. You almost have to take it, each one of like its own entity, and commune with that card, and speak with it and see what exchange that you both share. So when it comes to an emotional tone, some cards are very provocative in what emotions they will entice out of you. Some are very playful. In fact, I find a lot of my relationships with the fair folk is very playful. sometimes, uh, I playful isn't like, okay, haha, that's not funny anymore, type of playful, but playful nonetheless. But also just very wise and respectful. You know, a lot of respect for this deck. And I think that's like the relationship with the fair folk. As long as you have respect and ground rules on both sides is set, then I think the relationship will be pretty good. So long as you know, you watch yourself in a kind and loving way. Just know that it's you're not just dealing with Joe Blow around the corner. You're actually dealing with entities that are beyond our ken. Let's just put it that way. Trauma and grief. I mean, yes and no. It depends on the card and what energies it'll invoke in you. Some of the descriptions might be a little, I wouldn't even say traumatic, but just really invocative of soul work. And if that's not something that you're comfortable or ready to embark upon yet, then maybe this deck would be a later on kind of thing. So for these two categories, I would probably give them like in the middle, right? Emotional tone and gentleness, I'd probably give it a 4 out of 5 in a positive way. I'd say for the most part, it's a very positive, very neutral, very beautiful, warm, gentle deck with hints of things that could be more emotionally deep depending on how deep you want to go. It's like Alice's rabbit hole. Trauma and grief sensitivity, I'd say that's probably a 3, maybe a 2. It's not really trauma invoking for me. My previous video that I'll list at the top, tag in the top, that one's a little bit more stimulating and a little darker. So if that usually is more your alley, and shadow work is definitely the path on your journey that you're in the middle of processing, then that might be a better deck for you. But this one is a good deck for anything. I love this deck no matter what I'm reading about. So, all right. So my next category is usually like usability of the deck. So again, because this deck is more rare, and to find it, if you're wanting to pay the money for it, it's going to set you back a fair bit. I know it did for me. So I'd say these cards are very thin. Don't know if you can see that. They're a lot more thin. I like that because I can shuffle with them. And I like the fact that they're long. Right? A lot of decks are wide and short. I like this because it's long. So for me, I find shuffling this deck super easy. Like, super easy. The only downside with this is because they're so thin, they could very easily warp. And so if you're going to be doing this type of shuffling like this, doing an opposite, like to try and keep them balanced. But this shuffling is fine too. Like I can get my hands around it, no problem. And because they're light, they're lighter stock. If you're the type of person like me who waits for a card to actually pop out, good deck for that. The only downside is, again, because it's a little more flimsy, there might be some fading on the sides, and you'll just have to be somewhat a little bit more gentle with them. Thankfully, I haven't had any bend. And I don't know if that's just me because I've been hyper aware of being careful with it. But yeah, like pretty solid deck. Now when it comes to gloss or matte, as you can tell, this is very gloss. like super glossy, super shiny. So if you're a tarot card reader and you're looking to have this deck for any filming, just keep that in mind. Make sure your lighting's a little bit more light, or a little bit more, less harsh, so that you can capture the images on these cards. But again, glossy, but okay. When it comes to, again, practicality, I'd say, I mean, as long as you treat this deck gently, you take good care of it, it'll last you a good long while. You just have to be mindful, again, that it's a little more fragile than maybe other decks would be. So when it comes to usability and practicality, I'd say this is probably... I'd say probably like a 2 or 3 out of 5. Like this one, if you go hard, you're gonna damage the cards. So you have to be a little more thoughtful and a little more gentle with them. And not only that, it's not to say that, you ever want to get in the habit of like, oh, whoops, I destroyed them, I'm just going to replace them type of mentality. But especially with this deck being so rare, you can't really just go and replace this. So you really want to be gentle with this deck. Okay, inclusivity and representation. This is my next category. So what do I mean by inclusivity and representation? Essentially, like, is anyone of like gender, any like male, female, LGBTQ, will this be a deck that anyone would feel they connect with? And I'm being general, obviously, but I'd say more as a whole to the collective. I'd say so. I mean, if you are not really into the fair folk, okay, cool, fair enough. That's a personal choice, and no fault there. But again, like each character is just so beautiful. Like, I love this one. This one actually reminds me so much of the Dark Crystal. The wise men. And again, it's so beautiful. Like, so absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, I'd say it's a very inclusive deck because it focuses on the fair folk. It doesn't shy away from nudity, masculine, feminine, if that's, again, a lot of gender fluidity. Like, again, a lot of different creatures of nature, spirits interwoven, So I'd say this is very inclusive to anyone who wants to work together with this deck. Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, I'd say this is definitely a 4 or 5 out of 10. Or sorry, 4 to 5 out of 5. I want to give it more, guys. I want to give it all the stars. So next one would be reflection or journaling potential. As I mentioned before, I won't linger too long on this because I feel this deck is very intuitive. There's a lot of room for play, a lot of room for interpretation. So obviously, journaling could very easily be extrapolated from this deck. No problem. Excuse me, hiccup. No problem at all. And again, the deck is just, I could sit here and just look at it aesthetically, just like, wow, it's a meditation in and of itself. So yeah, definitely easy 5 out of 5 for that. Now price point. This is the hard one. Price point for value. I personally value this deck, because it's out of print. It's exceedingly hard to find. Where I found my copy was on eBay. I purchased it. Luckily, I was able to purchase it as a whole combo. And I'm not going to lie, it was exceedingly expensive. Like in the hundreds expensive. Now, some people are not wanting to pay that much for a deck, and fair enough. especially if you're starting out, you're a beginner. Start with decks that are very beginner friendly and are a price point or a budget point that you feel is justifiable. For me, I've been doing tarot for many years now. For me, it's a very much a part of my life. And again, I'm a huge Brian Froud and Wendy Froud person. So for me, this was a no-brainer. I had to have this as part of my collection. And not only that, I do a lot of work with the fair folk. I'm very blessed to have that connection with them. So for me, this was just another way of transmuting a connection with them that was a little maybe more attuned to their energies and a little bit more naturey, because I'm a sucker for nature decks. So yeah, affordability, it's pretty high price point. I mean, you can find just the deck on eBay without the book. A lot of it, unfortunately, like you might find the deck or just the book, sort of decks that are a little bit more loved, and without the box. Again, if that's what you're looking for, have at her. eBay's a great resource. This is unfortunately not one that you can order. Even going to a metaphysical shop, getting this would be very hard. So I'm going to give this a 1 for price point. Just a 1 out of 5 because it's exceedingly rare. It's going to be hard. So it's very much an optional niche thing. For value though, like I think it's worth the value, but that's a very personal decision, so I'll leave that for you. And again, same thing, availability and accessibility, not easily available. So again, low rating there, but worth it in my opinion. So is this deck beginner friendly? How do I say this nicely? In comparison to the Fairy Oracle, I love that deck very much. In fact, it's on my shelf, and I have it, in comparison to the Fairy Oracle, is it more beginner friendly? Yes. Because this deck has more of an explanation of what each card means and is more clear on what the symbology means for each card. So in that regards, it is a bit more beginner friendly for usage. For price though, no. For price, it's not beginner friendly. It is very much, you love it and you want it and you actively have made the choice to pay for it like I have. So, yeah, for I'd say this is probably intermediate to more advanced readers, unless you have a Brian Froud niche and that is totally your aesthetic, beginner or no, then kudos to you. It's a fantastic deck and you will not be disappointed. So yeah, that's my rating for the Heart of Fairy Oracle. Beautiful deck. Thank you so much once again for spending this time with me and for going over this deck with me. I'm hoping that this review has helped you to be a little clearer on this deck if you had any questions about whether, it's appropriate or a good fit for your practice, or if you want to add it to your collection. If you do have any questions, or if you've personally worked with this deck or you have this deck, please feel free to comment down below about your experiences with it. If you love it, what are, your thoughts about it? Do you feel that, it's ideal in certain situations or not? What cautions you might have for readers who want to buy this deck? And if there are any decks that you'd like me to review, please don't hesitate to comment down below. I always love to hear from the community, and if it's a deck I have, I'll definitely do it, and if it's not, well, I might just have to go and add it to the collection. So until next time, folks, take care, make sure you look after yourselves, and again, thank you so much for holding a small light together with me today in this reading. So many blessings, blessed be. Mwah. Catch you next time. Bye.